What's happening? What did we do? I just got off work really, really late. I was gonna get Chinese food. All the restaurants of Chinese food are closed. What do we do?
So I'm in Houston, Texas, door dashing, and I'm happening to pick an order up from Jersey Mike's, and this Nom Nom Noodles is right next to me. Let's see. Oh, this whole ghost town. Ooh, Jesus. Y'all still on business?
Oh, we boycotting Asian businesses, but you still buying your stuff from China. Shut up. The difference between the manufacturers over there in China and the businesses over here in the U.S. is that the manufacturers in China actually understand the value of the black dollar. So they're going to do whatever it takes to maintain our business. The businesses over here, however, feel like we need them more than they need us, which is the other way around, because we can cut the middleman all together and go straight to the plug. We really don't need them.
Cannot understand Asian American history without understanding black history. And the sooner you understand why, the sooner you'll stop being a fucking tool. So there's actually a name for this. It's called racial triangulation. And this starts with the stereotypes that white supremacy assigns. Black Americans get hit with racism and Asian Americans get hit with xenophobia. Want more Asian people to understand that model minority is not a fucking compliment. When people talk about model minorities, it's usually from a place of like, oh, why can't you just like shut up and be like these nice, obedient Asian people? This model minority stuff is a way to like pit Asian people and black people against each other. It's often used in a way to gaslight into thinking that racism doesn't exist. It's fucking bullshit. Because the second it becomes useful to scapegoat you, it's gonna happen. Case in point, remember the China virus a couple of years ago? Now with this Rick Chow case, this is being framed as some kind of like Asian versus black issue. The harm is real. The anti-blackness in Asian communities is real. I am not excusing it, but I think we also need to ask, who's benefiting from this dynamic? Who is benefiting when our communities are beefing with each other? The more I dig into this, the more I'm starting to see that it's not random, it's systemic. And I'm going to speak directly to my fellow Asian Americans. If you believe that, oh, maybe if I just obey the status quo and be a good boy, I'll be accepted. No, stop being a fucking tool. Conditional acceptance is not acceptance. It's control.
Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all doing good. Today we are talking about this topic that continues to generate intense discussion online. You know, according to many social media conversations, some consumers are becoming more intentional about where they spend their money, and that shift is creating new opportunities for certain businesses while also creating challenges for others. So let us just continue. I'll be coming back with more commentaries because, you know, every business owner should be judged based on their own actions, customer service, and contributions to their economies. So what we are discussing today is the broader conversation that is happening online about consumer spending habits and the economic empowerment. Let's get into the remaining clips. I'll be back.
Surprised myself. So recently all I've been doing is blocking people who come off as fake and just can't tell the truth or handle the truth. That's all I've been doing is blocking them. Especially ever since Chow got off with murder when it came down to taking the life of Cyrus. Okay, that really irritated me, and it really irritated me listening to all the nonsense. Okay. And the performative things people were saying. And so, you know, real recognize real. And so, you know, you just as soon as you hear the first part of a video, you just block. And I was really going around blocking many Asian people when they started talking about it, because it just sounded like you just rehearsed something somebody else said, and you just rehearsed something somebody else said, and all you did was get that from somebody else and rehearsed it. And now you're just trying to perform, because Asians perform. And they're very good at it. Okay, that's how they have a billions of dollar industry of creating something called harmony in East Asia. Creating this fictitious harmony, okay, at their own expense, just to project something that's harmonious. Yeah, that's a $1 billion industry. So I do understand what it is for an Asian to get on the screen and just say something based off somebody else. It just seems like it's so rehearsed. Okay, but this man right here, so right before I hit the block button, he just happened to say something. And I'm gonna let you hear it because I actually followed him. Surprise, surprise. Because he just simply isn't afraid of the truth. And he's not talking to Black America. He's talking to his own people.
I love when the Black community says, let's boycott Asian businesses. Please do. We'll get rid of the Chinese takeout, the dry cleaners, the laundromat.
It is so damn ironic of you to bring up Chinese restaurants and dry cleaners and laundromats, because we didn't choose those jobs. We were actually forced into them due to the anti-Asian laws created by white Americans and white European immigrants. And the only reason why those businesses survived was largely because of the support of Black people. But a lot of you bootlickers don't know your history. And for that, I'm going to have to take you to school. Domain expansion. Infinite TED Talk. What's up, everyone? My name is Rainier, and this is the true history of boycotting Asian businesses. You see, before Chinese restaurants and gas stations and beauty supply stores, the first Chinese migrants were actually in America in the 1800s during the California Gold Rush, and then to build the Transcontinental Railroad across the West Coast. But when the gold ran out and the final train tracks were laid, the American economy fell into a depression, and poor white Americans and European immigrants started to feel threatened by Chinese labor. And so what did they do? They joined anti-coolie clubs, and they advocated for anti-coolie laws that would limit the opportunities of Chinese laborers and tax anybody who hired Chinese workers. The racism was so bad that Chinese people were hunted down in the neighborhoods, beaten up by mobs of white men, or just straight up lynched in the streets. This violence is a big reason why Chinatowns were created in the first place. They are ghettos. They are safe spaces where Chinese people could set up shop and live together. But because of these anti-coolie laws, the only businesses that they could set up and get financing for were restaurants, grocery stores, and laundromats. Side note, so you should definitely watch the Warrior series because it's based on the writings of Bruce Lee, and it's set in the 1870s during all of this anti-Asian racism. But even though Black people were fighting their own freedoms at the time, they still took the initiative to speak up for Asians. And in 1869, the great Frederick Douglass gave the Composite Nation speech where he said, "Let the Chinaman come. He will help to augment the national wealth. He will help to develop our boundless resources. He will help to pay off our national debt. He will help to lighten the burden of our national taxation. He will give us the benefit of his skill as a manufacturer and as a tiller of the soil in which he is unsurpassed." Then in 1871 in Los Angeles, a mob of 500 white men robbed Chinese businesses and killed 19 Chinese immigrants. Hatred was so commonplace that companies would release advertisements to sell their laundry products using anti-Chinese racism. And then decades later, when the Hoover Company needed to sell washing machines, they published this ad over here depicting Chinese laundromat workers being displaced by automation. Now, if you watched Sinners, you probably remember the two Asian characters over here who ran a grocery store. And a lot of people were kind of confused why they were included, but that's because many Asians who left the West Coast due to a lack of work and racism, they fled to the South to work on sugar and cotton plantations. Many of those same Asians set up grocery stores in those Black neighborhoods, which means Black people were speaking up for Asians on the West Coast and putting dollars into our businesses in the American South. Fast forward to the 1980s when Vincent Chin was bludgeoned to death with a baseball bat by two white men who thought that Vincent was Japanese. Ronald Ebens and Michael Nitz recently lost their job at the Chrysler factory, and they blamed the Japanese car market for destroying the American automotive industry, and so they killed Vincent Chin. When the Asian community needed to seek justice, who showed up for us? Jesse Jackson. I can honestly keep going, but I'm going to end on this note. If you know the Disney movie, The Jungle Book, then you know the author of the original book, Rudyard Kipling. But what you might not know is that Rudyard also infamously created the poem, The White Man's Burden, which symbolizes the pain and the struggle of being a white man who is responsible for carrying African, Asian, Latino, and indigenous people out of the jungles of barbarism into the promised land of civilization. But for a lot of you bootlickers, you seem to think that just because you're in another basket that you're better than Black folks, even though
the amount of people that are just figuring out that Black people have decided collectively, you know, for the most part, to boycott Asian establishments. Y'all didn't know? I'm sorry. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, well, you know, it was just one Asian. It doesn't mean that all of them are like that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. However, yeah, we move in packs. We move collectively as a group to prove a point. To prove a point. And so then people are like, that's why there's all of this division. It creates division. It creates division. Well, they have been collectively trying to divide us for the longest. So we're going to remove ourselves. We're going to remove our money, our Black dollars. See, Target figured it out, and they're still struggling. right? And then the Caucasians and the Alabaster disasters were like, yeah, we don't like Target either, right? And that's where change happens. That's where change happens, because it also forces those other businesses and the Asian businesses to look and step outside of themselves to see if there is any, and there is there, and that's the reality of it. So now I won't talk about the fact that my nail tech is African American and has been for a very long time. I'm aware of disparities and I have discernment. I just have discernment about the people around me and the people that I want around me.
So, one of the biggest trends being discussed recently is the idea of economic self determination. And more people are asking themselves a simple question, that where does my money go after I spend it? For many consumers, especially those who are highly engaged on social media, that question has become increasingly important. And supporters of this movement argue that communities should invest more heavily in businesses that reinvest in their neighborhoods. They believe that supporting local entrepreneurs can help create jobs, build wealth, and strengthen communities over the long term. And as a result, many black owned businesses have reported increased visibility online, whether it's beauty products, clothing brands, restaurants, bookstores, or service providers. Social media users are actively sharing recommendations and encouraging others to support these businesses. And honestly, one thing that cannot be ignored is the power of social media. A few years ago, a small business might have struggled to reach a national audience. Today, one viral post can introduce a business to thousands or even millions of potential customers overnight. What we are seeing is that consumers have more information than ever before. They can research companies, they can read reviews, they can watch customer experiences, and make purchasing decisions based on values that are important to them. Many people involved in this conversation say that they are not simply boycotting one group of businesses. Instead, they describe their actions as being more intentional with their spending. They want to support businesses that they feel connected to and businesses that they believe understand their experiences. And this shift in thinking has created opportunities for entrepreneurs who may have previously struggled to gain market share in highly competitive industries. What's interesting is that this conversation is no longer limited to a few online communities. It has spread across multiple social media platforms, podcasts, and discussions forums. People are openly talking about ownership, economic independence, and the importance of building strong business networks. For black entrepreneurs, this has created a moment of increased attention. Consumers who may never have heard of certain brands before are now actively searching for alternatives and discovering businesses they didn't know existed. And that's where things become really fascinating. Many successful business owners say that visibility is one of the hardest challenges they face. Sometimes the products are excellent, the customer service is excellent, but people simply don't know the business exists. And when consumers begin intentionally looking for alternatives, it creates opportunities for smaller brands to compete with larger, more established businesses. And now, some people celebrate this trend as a sign of growing economic awareness. They even argue that every community has the right to support businesses that reflect its values and priorities. Others believe that competition itself is healthy. They say businesses succeed when they provide excellent products, fair prices, and strong customer service. And in this view, changing consumer choices are simply part of a competitive marketplace. Regardless of where someone stands on the issue, one thing is clear: that consumers have tremendous power. Every purchase is a decision. Every dollar spent is a vote for a particular product, service, or business. And when large numbers of consumers make similar choices, businesses notice. That's why so many companies pay close attention to customer feedback and public sentiment. Businesses understand that customer loyalty is not guaranteed. They have to earn it continuously through quality products, competitive pricing, and positive customer experiences. And another important factor is community support. Many black-owned businesses that are receiving attention today are benefiting not only from customers, but also from word-of-mouth marketing. People are sharing their favorite businesses with friends and family. They are posting reviews. They are creating videos. They are recommending products. And that type of organic support can be incredibly powerful. And in many cases, it can be incredibly powerful, and in many cases consumers trust recommendations from real people more than traditional advertising. And when customers feel personally invested in a business success, they often become long-term supporters rather than one-time buyers. And what we are witnessing may be part of a larger trend in which customers or consumers increasingly align their spending with their personal values. And this is not unique to any one community. Around the world, people are making purchasing decisions based on environmental concerns, ethical practices, local ownership, and community impact. The difference here is that many online discussions are specifically focused on economic empowerment and supporting entrepreneurs within underserved communities. For some observers, the growth of black-owned businesses represents an encouraging sign of entrepreneurship and innovation. It demonstrates that when businesses receive support and visibility, they can compete successfully in the marketplace. And at the same time, business success ultimately depends on delivering value to customers. Initial interest may attract attention, but long-term growth requires consistent quality, strong management, and customer satisfaction. That's the reality of business in any industry. So as this conversation continues, it will be interesting to see whether these changing consumer habits become a lasting trend or whether they evolve into something different over time. And one thing is certain, that people are paying more attention to where they spend their money than ever before. And when consumers become more intentional, businesses of all kinds are forced to adapt. So what do you think about this topic? Do you believe consumers should intentionally support businesses within their own communities? Or do you think purchasing decisions should be based solely on price, quality, and convenience? Just let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future conversations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.